All right, folks, good afternoon. And it is bottom of the hour, I should say. And we are doing our pre-launch of our brand new segment called Tech Talk. Tech Talk is a brand new segment that we have put together because, while we have great conversation on the area of health and wellness, the business, which encompasses all, we talk about the economy, all encompassing macro. We talk about public policy, hospitality, travel, and culture and arts, et cetera, et cetera. Today, in the 21st century, 2021, that we would be in a world of trouble today if we didn't have the innovative, advanced, state-of-the-art technology that we have today. We're in the middle of a once-in-a-century pandemic. And the reason we are able to continue to mitigate and navigate this pandemic because of technology. And so we know that while we see record infection across the world, 100 million, that was the number reported yesterday. We have over 400,000 dead in the United States. We're seeing record numbers every day of cases of infection, hospitalization. We're seeing a new variant of the virus, the mutation of the virus, on and on and on. And so technology, innovation, and science is playing a huge role in this process. And so I want to be able to say to those that are tuned into the program, I want to invite my colleagues. These guys, I love these guys because these guys were, we traveled halfway around the world, literally. Let me. Your mic is muted. Let me take it off there. I know. Leon is ready. Let me unmute your mic, Leon. Unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let me bring in our other colleague as well. These brothers right here, I got to tell you, man, we literally traveled in it as a delegation, a trade delegation from the U.S. Virgin Islands. We traveled, I think the flight was 13, 16 hours? What was it? Some crazy number.
14 hours.
14 hours. Imagine sitting on a plane, flying on a tube through the sky. So somebody said there's some background noise. I'm not sure where that's coming from. We're flying for 14 hours from the United States, from the Virgin Islands to the United States to Taiwan. And we literally congregated with each other for, I think it was about maybe 4 days in Taiwan, where we got a chance to really get to meet each other for the first time. And we went there because the mission was technology. It had to do with smart city technology. And we were part of a 20-member U.S. Virgin Islands trade delegation to Taiwan, and you had members of the public sector and the private sector. And these gentlemen that you see on this program are they were the forerunners of that trade mission to Taiwan. And I want to thank you guys publicly for taking that journey to Taiwan from the west to the east to be able to advance better economic bilateral relationship, cultural, geopolitical relationship. And it was an incredible experience, incredible journey. Welcome to the program. I want to welcome both Leon Hughes, the founder CEO of Neurex, and also Michael Gerard. He is the founder and CEO of Core. And, this program exists. Let me tell you why it exists. Before technology became what it is today, when the internet came on the scene, it was clear that there was a huge gaping hole, a gap in terms of the haves and have not, who had access to internet, who didn't, who had access to slow and fast internet. So if you lived in rural America, you had crappy internet. If you were in a city poor, you had crappy internet. Okay, so from a consumer perspective, right? That was a challenge. We didn't have the infrastructure, we didn't have the resources and the assets allocated for those in the country with that. Then it went from, we see the mammoth growth of the technology industry, the unicorn companies who went from being startups to gazillionaires, right? Surpassing legacy industry, legacy companies. Okay. And so what was happening? We saw a problem where in the knowledge-based workforce, you had an underrepresentation of people of color, women in that space. Okay. And the big tech giants, all the big tech giants were guilty of not doing enough to be more inclusive of people of color within the workforce. Now what we're seeing now is that the pandemic has exposed the fact that most mom and pop local small businesses were not prepared for this new norm called the doing business remotely, working remotely, doing business remotely in a virtual economy. And the reason for that, prior to the pandemic, there were 30 million small businesses in America. Did you know prior to the pandemic, and I understand that number hasn't really changed, there were on a monthly basis, 500,000 new businesses were created in America on a monthly basis. Incredible, 500,000. So there were 330 million small businesses in the country. And guess what? A report came out and said 46% of those small businesses didn't even have a website. So there's no surprise they were not ready for this. It was no surprise at all. And I want to be able to bring in my colleagues because these guys, they're the best, the most talented in that space. They're coming up with the kind of technology that's going to change our society, going to be disruptive. And I really want to share what they're doing with you guys and address the issue. Going forward, we're going to tackle the issue. This program, this segment on the marketplace is called Tech Talk. I want to welcome my colleagues, Michael Girard and Leon Hughes, both respectively from the organization Nerex and Core. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. How are you today? Okay, your mics are muted. Unmute your mics.
Doing good. Thank you so much for having us. This is very, very exciting, and you touched on some really important points there that will become highlighted later on as we speak. So thank you for having us.
Yes, this is our inaugural show, right? This is our debut,
that's
right?
Yeah.
It's the pre-launch, right? The soft launch, if you will. We will have other techies, right, like yourself, the best and smartest in the business, join us to be able to have a healthy, robust discussion around this issue. But you are the first two co-founders of this new segment called Tech Talk on the marketplace.
Good to be here, man.
Good to be here.
So Michael, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing in the tech space and the name of your company, organization, and your technology, please.
Sure thing. Well, born and raised in the Caribbean, lived in the U.S. Virgin Islands all my life. And, I'm just proud to be born in such a unique place, such a melting pot. And that's what really led to the creation of the technology that I'm working on. And the story really started with my mother years ago, back when I was, young in college. I tried to help her with her finances. A lot of people from the Caribbean are very good at finding money somehow. We're hustlers, but we need some help when it comes to managing our funds. And that's where it all got started. Started with an Excel sheet with my mom, and that worked pretty well the first time around. The second time around was when I got it down. And she was able to save over $25,000 within 6 months. And what I really started with was what I went to school with for, which was business administration. I had a concentration in IST, information system technology. And as you can tell, I always had an interest in merging business with tech. So it was a no-brainer to get started in what I'm doing today, which is Core Finance. And that's really just what wraps around this story around how I got started with this and a little bit about me.
Fantastic. Leon, my friend, the floor is yours. You are this. Leon was the, talk about a sense of humor. This guy was the ringleader. He had us cracking up, man. I mean, no matter where we went, man, we were all shuttled together. We were in a taxi at the hotel, at the restaurant. No matter where we were, this guy was the center. He was the gravity of everything. And so his sense of wit and humor is just incredible. Thank you for joining and being part of the team, Leon.
Thank you, Anthony, and Michael as well. you know, it's very easy when you got Anthony in the room to crack some jokes. You know, he makes himself very available. He's the first guy I know can really laugh
Yeah,
at
I'm the guy.
himself.
I'm the
But
guy with the target. I'm the guy with the target in the back.
well, you can laugh at yourself, and that's a good thing. You know, you can't get out of this life for life, so you better well get out of it happy. I'm from the Virgin Islands too, born and raised. I left to join the military. Always wanted to get back to home and bring new and exciting ideas. And having worked in corporate America, Fortune 500 companies, both private and public sector, um, when the opportunity came that I could partner up and bring technology to the Virgin Islands through hackathons, partnering with the UBI and Dr. Hall and Dr. Faley, that was really it for me. And coming back home and seeing that there's an excitement in young people across all disciplines at the university level, and even folks that are just walking every day and have great ideas. They're utilizing applications, whether on their phones or at work, and really just wanted to show folks that we don't have to be in California, in Silicon Valley, or up north from MIT. You know, everyone has an opportunity to participate in the global market of, you know, technology. And in today, now working with Michael and being a part of the cohort with RT Park and what they're doing there for us young entrepreneurs, you know, I see an expansion, I see a resurgence, I see a different way of thinking. Michael is 100% correct. We're grinders, we're hustlers. It's in our DNA being Virgin Islanders. I think we just need to have had other opportunities to express ourselves and to be exposed to other things like your show and other folks in the community who are really there to help, you know, provide a platform for us is all we've been asking for. And so now with machine learning and some of the projects I'm working on, even working with my colleague here, Michael, he's got a great opportunity to break down a very elusive thing of managing your money into how millennials see it and help them, you know, be able to achieve their goals and dreams. So I'm just excited to be a part of the community, and I'm excited to be here, and you know, anything that I can do to help my colleagues grow, you know, I'm always here to put my best foot forward.
Nirix and Core, they're two hurdles, or should I say barriers, in terms of entry into the industry, right? There is the issue of color, people of color. You know, we talked about consumer, we talked about the workforce, we talked about infrastructure, right? But then here we go now, okay, entrepreneurs, right? Self-starters, startups. Talk to me a little bit about some of what that experience has been like for both your organization, your company, being people of color, but then on the second barrier is being from the Caribbean. So there is, you know, being persons of color from the being Americans from from America, and then obviously coming from the Caribbean. Talk to us about that, those challenges and the entry into technology.
I'm going to yield to, and this is a very interesting question. I think you're going to get two sides of a Virgin Island perspective here. I'll let Michael go first, given that he was born, raised, and for a large part of his career, built his career at home, whereas I left. And so I want to have him start, and then I'll come in afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Anthony. I think there's a lot of hurdles that we have. You know, we heard before that as an African American, as a Black person, you have to work twice as hard, right, to get ahead, or just to maintain the status quo. So I think if you consider the fact that now we're, you know, physically not part of any major mainland, whether it's Europe or America, it adds layers of not only having to prove yourself, but also the trust factor. So I think me building my career locally has been, you know, a great thing on one side, because I've been able to hold on to, you know, our principles and our traditions, and I've been able to grow as an adult in that world, and that has done wonders for me. You know, and even if I consider Core, a lot of the things that I am establishing within the application comes from my unique background. You know, it comes from the fact that I have parents from different islands across the Caribbean, come from that most of my friends didn't have the same background as myself. And that makes us unique. So I don't want to just talk about the challenges. There's a lot of good things there too. But in terms of interacting with investors, finding co-founders, or just simply finding employees, it tends to be a challenge. You definitely need to overprove yourself, if you will, just to get half of what you could get somewhere else. And I think that it is a good and a bad thing, because it makes us someone who people that really fight. If you take into account a lot of the hurricanes and a lot of storms that we've had in the Caribbean, and we see how we handle those situations, if you look at our businesses, we're very resilient. So I would just say, find what makes you unique and set that forward, and be confident in your background and who you are.
For just for edification, we're broadcasting on the second oldest radio station, terrestrial radio station in the Caribbean, right? AM 970 WSCX is the second oldest. They've been around for over 50 something years, right? And so you have a sense of history that comes with that, right? Folks are listening to this conversation, it's live, etc. Then we rebroadcast on Tempo Networks, right? Tempo Networks is on Verizon, Fios, on Time Warner Cable, and all the local cable providers throughout the Caribbean, Central America, Caribbean, and Guyana and Suriname. So you have literally millions of people, eyeballs, watching this program, and so you have an audience, a very diverse audience, right? African, English, Spanish, French, Dutch, you name it. Okay, and the reason why this conversation is so important is because you brought up something that I didn't mention. I talked about the other challenges, but you talked about access to capital. Access to capital, forget being a startup tech company, access to capital for small businesses, period, is problematic. And so here it is that you don't have the kind of representation of people of color in the tech space from a workforce point of view. Then you talk about now startup companies in the tech space. And now you talk about how do you get access to capital. Talk to me, Leon, about your experience, because you have people who are listening and they're contemplating, how do they go about doing this? What should they expect? What they should know. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So again, I think a lot of our qualities, like Michael has said, when I grew up, my dad bought things cash, right? He wasn't a layaway guy. He wasn't a credit guy. He'd go to the store. If it costs $300, if he has it, he buys it. If he knows he needs to come back next week. So we were really raised up on, if you have it, you buy it, you never steal. And so that's a difference in the thinking. And when I got to the States, which is, the network of who you know and how they trust you, and especially for blacks in America, Caribbean blacks too, I think it's part of it is color, but then again, it's who you've been around and how much they believe in you, and also how much prepared you have done for yourself with credit, and access to assets. I remember coming home to the Virgin Islands and try to, some of the loans or some of the banks, the first thing they want is for you to put up property. Well, I'm not going to put up my mom's and dad's home after they worked all, even if they, deemed me a property. So the way we go about access to capital until just recently with Black Lives Matter, where you see, superstars and businessmen now creating funds, that wasn't there before Black Lives Matter. That wasn't there 5, 10 years ago. That wasn't there when we walk into a bank and, it's who you know and how much they believe in your business. So access to capital, I think, is still a little bit elusive. I think for a lot of us is we have to create our own access to capital. You just look at Calendly. This just went off the wire from LinkedIn last night. A company that was only doing 70 million last year got raised, I think, 350 or 300 million, and did one of the first black unicorns of 2020. They're now at a $3 billion valuation. Why did that happen, right? And so it's not that we haven't been worthy of these good efforts as far as what we're putting out into the marketplace. I think it's just we have had those challenges, institutional challenges, And it's hereditary, right? It's how our parents were raised and what they had and what they struggled for. And folks like me and Michael and many others in the Caribbean don't really want to put any more of a burden on our family. So we leave with, hey, we're gonna go do it ourselves and we're gonna go fight, we're gonna go grind. Well, you only have so much time in life, and that's not how it's done. You got to find a way to bring that capital in, get your return on investment for yourself and for your investors, and that's a learning process, right? I'm Eric and the folks over at the RT Parks have now brought that sort of awareness, and I would say the biggest barrier to anything that we have as colored people, Caribbean people, is information, and having an open mind that it's going to be a little bit different than where you were traditionally raised to look at money. Wall Street uses other people's money. It's never their own, right? And so, we're always about, well, if I lend you this, what's in it for me? And that sort of mentality around us systemically is what, you end up with the crabs in a barrel. If you make this much, what happened to me? So a lot of this is how do we grow as a community, and it starts with the household. Girls who can code and boys who can code and access to capital, how to manage their money so that when they get into those conversations, they're prepared. They know how to run a business. They know what type of capital you want. Not all capital is good capital, So it's really a learning. I think it all boils down to information. We need to have more information in the community, and then we need mentors to help stitch the information to a proven plan of success. And so that's really how I see it. Coming to the States, I just want to end up, I learned networking. I learned that the only way I'm going to get around those circles is to work hard, but then allow myself to be exposed to different networks. And it may be that I go into a network and do and never, get an ROI from it. Those things are now beginning to prove fruitful later in my life, right? And so now I can get a referral to this, I can get a referral to that. People are seeing your track record. And so it's really your own portfolio you have to build. It's harder, it's tougher, but the rewards are going to be much sweeter if you do it the right way.
We're going to go into a break, and I'm going to play a piece, courtesy of Forbes magazine, really just kind of recapping what we're talking about. And when we come back on the other side, you talked about a support network. A support network is extremely vital to this process. Why? Because Bill Gates, richest man, used to be the richest man in the world. Steve Jobs, Apple, creating Apple. Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, eBay, Google. And we can go on and on and on. All these companies started either in their garage, in their basement, and they were able to go around and ask family members and friends for the money that they needed. The $250,000, the $500,000. They all of them had a humble beginning, but what they had, like you said, is they had. There's a certain culture. And I don't want to when I come back, I want to expand on that. But there's a cultural mindset that is very conservative when you're talking about the Black community. And then on top of that, you add the Caribbean community. There's a certain mindset that is very conservative, or how they see risk, which they're very risk adverse. And so we'll come back. I want to have that conversation with you guys. Folks, you're listening to The Marketplace. This is the brand new segment, pre-launch of our brand new segment called Tech Talk here on The Marketplace. I'm Anthony Weeks. I'm joined by my colleagues, both Leon Hughes and Michael Gerard. Both they founded their own company, and we'll hear some more about their company and what they've invented. And we're going to play this piece, really just validating what we said. Again, we're in the news business, and so we bring courtesy news, to our listeners, to our viewing audience. So we'll be right back, and we'll continue the discussion on the other side.
I can't even tell you the amount of young minority women who are CEOs of companies who've been mistaken for being the women who are the administrators. So often they walk in board meetings and it's like, oh, the coffee and tea is over there. I feel quite disheartened when I see the overall state of diversity in general when it comes to major tech companies, and also among my cohort of entrepreneurs who lead small startups. I think the numbers are not on our side.
Especially companies in the Bay Area, when they think about being disruptors and innovators, I don't understand how you can be that and claim to be that if you don't have a diverse workforce. How can you build products that can change the world if you don't have experiences from the world's community? How can you have the experiences and the thoughts that are representative of a broader community in which you're trying to serve or sell your product to?
While there is a wealth of research that gives us really good insight into what actually works to move the needle with respect to diversity and inclusion, many organizations try things that are either not leveraging that research or are totally inconsistent with that research. So, they might say, well, we'll have a sensitivity training and that'll really change people's minds. Turns out that's been studied, and not only does sensitivity training tend not to change people's minds, it can often backfire.
When companies say that, we value diversity, but there is this lack of a pipeline and we can't find these candidates, to me, that's just laziness. We exist, we're here. I think when they say that, what they're really saying is that our employees, when they refer friends and colleagues to join the organization, they tend to look like the people that are doing the referrals.
We have to strengthen the pipeline, and strengthening of pipeline means that we have to have, once they come on board and once they start working in these companies, they need to have a way to go up. And oftentimes that's a stagnation that I hear among my minority and poor friends who are in tech companies. A lot of them tell me that there's no way to go up. They get in and their mid-level manager, who is white, who is so different than them, is not willing to chance and to give them an opportunity.
In general, one of my frustrations with a lot of the ways that organizations operate is that they often fail to align accountability measures to the things that they say they care about. That's one of the big things that we push our clients to do. Articulate what it is that you care about, and then set up incentive structures, accountability structures to align with that. Because if you are telling your hiring managers, we need you to hire quickly, but then you're saying in the other breath, but we also, care about diversity, you're kind of sending mixed messages, because we know that if you want to identify and bring in more people from underrepresented backgrounds, you'll often have to slow down a bit. When people are from backgrounds that are underrepresented, it often takes more time, effort, and energy to find those candidates.
I think now more than ever, it's incredibly important to have these conversations about diversity and the value of it, especially in today's world where all the political turmoil is occurring. And it's incredibly necessary because, as we saw with this election, people are talking past each other. And there's so many differing thoughts and opinions, and somehow there isn't a bridge that connects the opinions. And so when you think about diversity, again, there's a whole community that understands the value of diversity, and there seems to be a community that doesn't.
I think we really have a rare opportunity here, that if we seize and we set the example that this is not the exception but the norm, I think other companies and perhaps even government and nonprofit institutions will follow suit. Because when I was working at the United Nations in Thailand and in Burma, I remember we looked to Silicon Valley for direction. We looked in this area for purpose. And I think that it could set the tone.
So I don't know about you guys, but for me, that piece was so insightful. Again, courtesy of Forbes. That piece was so insightful. We're going to talk about, the support network issue. But one of the things I find very interesting, where when you think of some of the best talent in the tech space are people of color. People of color from different parts of the globe, different continent, coming to America. And some of these guys are, they're not Americans. They're coming from different backgrounds, right? But we'll get into that. But let's talk a little bit about how important is it to have the family structure, the friend network, because none of those behemoth major tech giants became who they are because they had a lot of money. They got the support they needed. Talk to the people, talk to our audience in terms of why that is so important. Having the right support, changing the mindset of how they look at being able to be that important resource to encouraging and building up and saying, we got your back.
I could take that first and then I can give it back to and sometimes I'm not the popular guy in the room when I talk to this, and Michael and I.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think there is a percentage of it that's your family, your upbringing, the diversification, underprivileged, underserved, undernoticed. There are challenges there in life that set you aback from the starting line in life, right? Not that you're not going to get there. There's people who have come from lesser means who have surpassed those with means. I think it's an attitude. It's your grit, your grind. It's who you've been around, certain exposures, whether it's jobs or friends or college or military like me. And they always say, some people say entrepreneurs are born, some say they're made. I think both are correct. But I'm not that guy that blame where I'm at based on the color of my skin. I think in the Virginals, we're a different type of people. We are already blended in our community and even in our DNA. And so I think for me, I can only speak for me. When I looked at the diversity, when I first started my company, I've always worked with diversified company. In the military, I was diversified, right? And so I look at the skill set and can they perform? And today, my company, the brand doesn't sleep. I have folks around the world. I have women in my company. I have women who run departments in my company, black, white, whatever they are in the parts of the world. If they can handle the job, they take it. I think a lot of times too, we, from a sense of entitlement, okay, we're going to go be diverse, and okay, I'm going to go look at a certain zip code or DNA, or I'm going to go canvas a college and I'm going to hire from ABCU. We can do those things, but I think at the end of the day, we need to also set the tone that the person that we're putting in that position, whether man, woman, black, white, whatever the color, they are the right person in the right seat that can do the right thing. And so it falls back to mentorship programs. If people raise their hand or encourage, and the carrot isn't so far, but it can't be so easy that they get a sense of entitlement, because it's not easy out here. And you're right, some folks have had easier connections through the networks. They can go and shake a hand of a person and they can have 250,000 or 250 million till they drop in a bank account. And so those are still the barriers for us getting to capital, having a trustworthy network of any color as far as BC or PNE that will believe that, okay, the product that's been out there has proven itself, and now we want to take it 10x. Whether it's a Series A through K, everyone's going to have a different purpose. But I think when you talk about diversity, right now for me, I think I'm geographically diverse, gender diverse, color diverse, skill set diverse, technology within the technology space diverse. I mean, I've got everything from BAs to digital analysts to machine learning to AI. So it's really what you want to build, and you got to have a focus. And that, again, takes access to people who are willing to sit down with you, help you draw a roadmap, like the RT Park, like Gerald and I are doing. Not everybody got a chance to go to college. That's another thing. There's all these sorts of things that could create barriers of entry for yourself. But I think if anyone out there wants it bad enough, they can go get it. And that's the power of the society we live in today. I remember watching Bill Gates a long time ago. He said the world is flat. You no longer have to leave St. Croix to be a multimillionaire, to run a tech company, to participate in the global space. He talked about 46% of those people didn't even have a website. 46% of them, even if they had a website, they wouldn't even know what to do with it, right?
That's a whole nother challenge, right?
And so I love this conversation because everybody keeps saying, hey, man, you're a black man, you're doing so good. And I said, listen, the people I hire, they all have smarter degrees than me. I've got no bachelor's, no master's in what I want. I just knew I wanted to go that direction. And a long time ago, a CTO told me, hire people smarter than you, give them the opportunity to do what they know how to do best, and become the best leader building other leaders. Become a servant leader. And so that's all I've done. So whether it's color, race, geographic, St. Croix, around the world, I think build the best company you can, being cognizant of those things, but don't let those things drive everything that makes your decision in running your company.
I'm going to throw the proverbial grenade in the room. I'll make a controversial statement. On when you look at three fronts, right? Before the pandemic, you saw a huge demand for knowledge-based workforce, like 5 million. They just, companies, they say they can't fill this up because they don't have the human capital to do that. But yet you see them put so much emphasis on certain people of a certain nationality, certain race, certain gender, et cetera, because, it's a gender issue. It's not just a race issue, it's a gender issue. This country was built on immigrants, right? But we have the social unrest, right? Then you see that mirrored on the technology side, right? We have immigrants from all over the country, some of the smartest people coming from all over the world to this country to study and to live the American dream. Is it that in their mind they think people that are not minorities, people of color, whites, if you will, are smarter than the people of color, and so therefore they just automatically assume if I'm going to go hire something, if I want the best, I'm not going to hire a black person, a Hispanic person. I'm going to hire a woman.
Well, I'm gonna comment, and then I'm gonna swing it over to Michael, who went through the educational institution side. I went military. I think when you look at where folks have been sourcing talent for what technology needs, look at where they're getting it from. MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Atlanta, what is it, Georgia Tech. Now you got to go back and say, okay, what is the diversity of the graduates? Are we 50-50 on the graduate output? Are we 75-25? Are we even in the competition, right? So if I'm a tech head about to go try to build $1 billion company, yeah, some of it is I'm going to hire who I like. Let's be honest, that exists. That's going to exist probably till the day I die and beyond.
Somebody that looks like you, right?
Yeah, right? Exactly. My affinity network, right? And this is who I hang with, I drink with, and I party at my house, right? I mean, you're going to have that. Let's just be honest. People got to, it's a hard thing to answer in the room, but it's true, right? And so you're going to hire other people like that looks like you. And then if you say, okay, I need to go get something built, who are we graduating? There was a time, I think in 2018, there were 500,000 tech jobs, 400,000, something like that. America only graduated 50. So where are you going to go get these from? You got to go outsource, right? Which is how outsource was outsourcing. $80 billion left America to face like India and beyond because we couldn't source people here. So who graduates from MIT? Who can afford to go to MIT? So the percentages of us graduating from these highly, tech school where people pull from is probably, I don't have the numbers, but I would guess we're on the lower end of that scale. And then, so I'll leave it to Michael. He's been in those environments. He sat in the classroom. Were you equally dispersed, or were you the 10%, the 1% in the room doing what you're doing? I mean, we got to be honest with ourselves too.
Well, I'll say I went to a historically Black university, but I do have some experience in, universities in the mainland. I think it's what I call the algorithm syndrome. So if you listen to the conversations around the algorithms that are implemented in Facebook and a lot of the top social media sites, and you see, what the main issue is as it relates to diversity. And you soon realize is that the people creating the algorithms are, for lack of a better word, just white people, white men sitting behind a screen and they're creating the algorithms. They're the ones looking for a type of face, facial structure, skin tone. So what that creates is a bias, right? And I believe that a lot of that is, really at a massive scale around the world, but especially in America. I do agree with Leon. They go to the MITs, and I think that's why it's ever more important to look at your finances and really study and plan ahead. Because if you really do deep digging, you'll find that a lot of these kids that went to these universities, their parents planned 18 years before, right? They planned when the child was born, and they set some money aside in some investments, and they're carrying their children through universities with those funds, right? It's not just money that they're working for today and they're paying for their colleges. And that's how you create that generational growth. And that's how you get more, Black people or more diverse background of people in certain spaces. Because MIT is not cheap, I'll tell you that.
MIT, Stanford, and you bring up a good point, man, because it starts, and we go all the way back to Anthony's question when he started, which was, how do you get the family support? And in the Caribbean, we're hardworking people, and we don't have that. And I think a lot of it is the risk factor. My mom she said I make her stomach curl when she's trying to figure out, and I say, Mom, I'm going to go do this. And she's like, Leon, but the facts don't add up, and I'm like, I forget the facts. I'm going to go create my own facts, and so she sometimes said I give her agita, and she stays up at night worrying how he going to figure this out. And then I figured out, she said, oh my God, I couldn't do what you do, because our risk tolerance is highly affected in the bird now.
First.
Yeah. The other thing, though, I will say, and this is one thing I've carried out throughout my career, I always say good morning, good afternoon, and good night. So our cultural influence, at least on me and Michael, is strong. The other thing is we're resilient. So again, if we give our people opportunity, we raise them up right, we build a community, whether that mom or dad has the money to, like Michael said, start putting a fund together. Maybe they never start. It's never too late. We still need a financial education in our community, and then give them access to mentorship, internships, apprenticeships, programs like what the RT Park is doing. We have to create our own pathway for success in our environment. We cannot look at Silicon Valley, Chicago, or Silicon Valley, California, and think, oh, we're going to go create Silicon Valley like that in St. Croix. No, we got to do it our way. Look at Nigeria. Look at all these other countries, Guyana, Haiti, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
They're all doing it based on who their talent is, their educational system, their environment. So we got to look at what everybody's doing, but then we got to create our own success pathway for the Virgin Islands.
I definitely agree, and I would also add, Leon, those are very good points. I would add the factor of cultural. When I got started in core finance, one of the things I noticed immediately was that there's a very distinct culture around business in the Caribbean as a whole, but I'll talk specifically about where I'm from, which is the U.S. Virgin Islands, and a lot of times friends and family just don't know the lingo, right? They don't know how it works, how they can help. They don't know if they even should. It's everything is not just funding. Sometimes it's more than just friends. It's friends of friends, mutual friends, people that your vast network. When you see someone starting a business, for example, Leon, he's done great things, right? And if you see someone like that, you help them. If they post something, you repost it, you share it with a friend. And that way you have now an ecosystem that you've built locally of people who can grow a business into a multi-million-dollar business. And that's how we get ahead. And that's in respect to your question earlier, Anthony, about culture and support around family. I think that, in just my opinion, I think that plays a major role in the development of a business. A lot of startups start small, but if you understand the basis of a startup company, it's a product or service that's supposed to be scalable, right? And Leon, you have more experience than I do in this, in growing companies, creating companies. And you see easily that if you have that initial support group, you can do a lot of things in a very short time. And I'll also say, money talks, man. Money talks. And yes, in certain markets, our skin plays a role, the color of our skin plays a role. But if you manage to have a following, if you manage to, you know, have the those key metrics and show them, hey, I'm doing something here, you know, they're gonna pay attention regardless. They're just gonna pay attention.
And the other thing I want
Hold that thought. We have 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure that I give each of you equal time to talk about why you invented what you invented, and let people know how they can learn more about what you've created in terms of your technology. We'll take a quick break.
Awesome.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is Anthony Weeks, and joined by my colleagues, both Leon Hughes and Michael Girard. Leon is the founder of Nerex, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his technology, why he created it. They said necessity is the mother of all invention. And then we also have Michael Girard. He is the founder and CEO of Core Financial. We have a few minutes left, a couple minutes left. Michael, why don't you tell us some more about your technology? Obviously, we'll have more opportunity to do that, but for today's program, just give us a good overview of it and where people can learn more about your technology.
Great, thank you. As I mentioned before, the story really started with my mother. With me being in college and thinking that I was a smart boy back then, I created an Excel sheet to help her manage her finances. And you know, you guys heard me mention earlier that the number of people and friends, you know, friends and family that took notice of her success of saving over $25,000 within 6 months ballooned up to about 40. And Excel was terrible at it. You know, people didn't know how to use it. It crashed all the time. So I wanted something that I can use to be more scalable and I can reach more people, right? So I started Core Finance, and you know, I'm focusing on those three main problems that I found in my research. And again, these numbers are based on the mainland US, but 91 million Americans are financially overlooked. 48% lack the ability to properly manage their finances, and 2 out of 3 of them, you know, have what I call FOF, or the fear of finance. And what my company aims to do is really just fix that, really just target it. It's built by, you know, someone who's African American, who's been in the trenches, who knows the struggles, knows exactly how we use and how we look at our money. And that's what makes it truly valuable. I learned a lot from, you know, going through the process with my mom and those other 40 people. And I'm taking that and I'm basically turning it into an application. And Leon has played a role in this as well. He's currently playing a role. Great to have him by my side. He provided a lot of guidance and a lot of tech, know-how. But essentially, we're bringing industry first to this entire thing. And in one of your commercials, Anthony, something that was said that really stuck to me, which was, how can you change the world if you don't understand the people who are in it, right? And if you look at my competitors, such as Mint or You Need a Budget, a lot of them are created by, just, again, white men sitting behind a laptop who've been doing finance for 20, 25 years. They don't know how we interact with finance. They don't know who we are or how we value our money. So Core tends to focuses on really focusing on their goals and values. That's key. That makes plays a big role. A lot of times we tend to think that finance is really all calculated, decisions, but that's absolutely not true. The reality is that finance is very emotional, it's very personal, and Core really focuses on that. Core also brings the industry first, which is what we call virtual accounts, and we place the need to have, to sign into your bank account apps and look at how much funds you have. We take what other companies are doing, which is a traditional budgeting system, which is really taken from the business world, and dropped in the laps of many people. And people are just told, hey, there you go, figure it out. I'm removing all of that, and I'm bringing something that's really useful and really brings value to everyone.
All right, Leon.
Well, thank you guys again, Michael. It's always great to hear your story with your application. It's built off of your mom, and I think that's probably a lot of what your drive is. Nerix for me was born out of an opportunity to displace an outsourced company that didn't have a domain-specific knowledge in the automotive industry at the time, and the COO and the CEO said to me, hey, if you could go find or make or duplicate yourself. It started off with a joke. Can we clone you, Leon? I said, well, I don't think that's legal or humanly possible. But they said, no, not in that way. If you go build a team that can do what you do and you can lead them, bring us the proposal. And within a week, I had a proposal, built the company, started in July or June of 2013, and never looked back. Now, it's not been without its challenges, because what I intended there was to have our outsourcing be nearshore, using talent in the Virgin Islands. And after seeing that I would have to plant seeds in the Virgin Islands, that was going well with hackathons, and we were getting a lot of traction. And then we had the hurricanes, and some of that talent left. Now, the other good news is some of that talent has moved on and gone on to do great things in great companies like Amazon and so forth. So that was what Nerix really was to give folks an opportunity to work in a remote environment when outsourcing, which it still is, was $60 to $80 billion of America's spend outside of the country, the mainland, looking for talent. But they were up against a lot of language barriers, time zone barriers, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, if we could just come in, we're US based, you can fly to Virgin Islands, you don't need a passport, and we can build a small and growing team. Folks can make a good, decent income right from the Virgin Islands. And so, again, when you're starting your business, limited or no capital, people don't know what you're doing. What is tech? Why should we invest in tech? Banks don't really lend tech companies money because there's no physical asset to most of what you're doing. And so, fast forward to 2019, after coming back with the delegation with you guys, Michael and I decided, hey, this thing called the RT Park Accelerator, this looks like St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands, is onto something. And so I have a second company, Shore IQ, and that company is going to be involved in 3 categories: auto tech, health tech, and support in fintech companies. Like, when I say fintech, not to compete with Michael, but anything that's doing big data, utilizing machine learning, AI, and those sort of new age technology that really is what's going to drive the next generation of tech. So nothing to say by name yet, But we did peddle around an idea during our first accelerator cohort. I saw where that may have had some challenges where people didn't really get the gist of it. But it's okay. Sometimes failure is when found sooner and quicker. You tweak your ideas, and so the next generation of my machine learning AI is going to be in a genre where it's the fastest growing, which is right now health tech and auto tech. And I think in a few more months I'll be able to put out a official name of it, and it'll be right out of the RT Park with a company called Shore IQ. And I'm just looking forward to help any and anyone along the way who needs me to share talent or bring talent or make jokes or whatever. So it's all good.
All right.
Happy life.
Well, guys, thank you so much for the first installment. This is good. This is the foundation that we've laid. Really looking forward to having really healthy, robust discussion around the issue. There's a lot to talk about. Technology, the space is very complex. It's innovative. It's transformative, and I'm hoping that we can do that with this program. This is our first show, and obviously when we get the word out, we're able to really do some good in terms of really education and empowerment of folks to be able to understand that space and get more people of color, women in that space, and create more business and create more capital to access. Well, Leon, Michael, until next week, thank you, gentlemen, for your input, your contribution, and we will talk soon.
Thank you for having us.
Take care. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Anthony.